There's a scene midway through Candyman that explains what separates this movie from the 1992 original. Seeking some thrills to spice up their cozy lives, a group of high school girls head into the restroom to invoke Candyman's spirit. We all know what happens next. These 5 mean girls are like lambs to the slaughter. What's telling is that the one person of color in the clique comes to her senses and flees the room. Why wouldn't you? They're conjuring Candyman, not Beetlejuice. In 2021, getting killed by a ghost is such a first-world problem. This minor tweak addresses the problematic flaws in Candyman lore. Candyman is the story of a black man who lusted after a white woman, who was tortured and killed by white men, and yet he went on to terrorize a poor black Chicago community. Candyman comes off like a demonic Uncle Tom. That shtick doesn't fly in 2021. It's as though the execs that greenlit the project didn't think the whole thing through. Side note, Candyman 1992 was conceived and directed by 2 white guys, Clive Barker and Bernard Rose. Thankfully, writer-director Nia DaCosta and writer-producer Jordan Peele stepped in to stage a horror villain intervention. Candyman 2021 is a reclamation project. The talented duo crafted the origin story the character always deserved, while also addressing timely themes about race, class, and police brutality. Candyman stars Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as Anthony McCoy, a talented artist establishing himself in the Chicago art scene. He's carved out a niche creating politically charged pieces about racism, violence, and white supremacy. Anthony wants to take his art to the next level and searches for new inspiration. And boy, does he ever find it when a mysterious local, played by Colman Domingo, schools him on the Candyman legend. Once Anthony uses the Candyman myth in his newest art installation, people start dying. On the bright side, Anthony becomes the hottest artist in town. But there's a cost. There's always a cost. A supernatural force descends upon Anthony while wreaking havoc on his newly gentrified community. Unfortunately, by the time Anthony's girlfriend Brianna, played by Teyonah Parris, sees these changes in her man, it might be too late, and her sensitive lover could become the next vessel for a vengeful spirit. First off, this movie is all kinds of fun. You can tell the people behind the film have a lot of love for the original. DaCosta stays true to the spirit of the first Candyman while making this follow up its own thing. She warps the mythology just enough to keep it feeling familiar while making the story work in a modern context. Candyman has evolved from a vindictive reincarnation of one man to a supernatural reckoning. It's like The Grudge in this sense, a traumatic stain induced by a grave atrocity. The Candyman legend is now bigger than any one man. This tweak revitalizes the mythology and opens the door for countless spin-offs. If you struggle to get through horror movies, you'll want to take a pass on this one. Candyman is tense and atmospheric with some wicked jump scares. It's also a thoughtful and measured horror flick similar to The Babadook, but it has enough absurd violence to please gorehounds. DaCosta does a masterful job establishing a chilling tone. Each scene gets under your skin by conveying an oppressive sense of dread. Watching the movie stirred up the same feelings inside me I have when a storm is brewing. The atmosphere plays such a huge part in why this film works so well. Candyman is technically a slasher flick, but this story has a low body count by slasher movie standards. The kills are violent and grotesque and so very disgusting, and on top of that, there's some gruesome body horror that will unsettle you to your core. But at the end of the day, Candyman is more of a moody vibe movie than an in-your-face slasher flick. DP John Gulasarian finds lots of dynamic angles to place the camera, which throws viewers off balance. Sometimes the camera's perched up high on the ceiling, leering down at Anthony like a spider. During the opening credits, the camera flips upside down, creating a woozy, off-kilter nightmarish vibe, as the unnerving score drones on in the background. One of my favorite shots shows a kid walking through the projects looking minuscule next to a massive apartment complex. This picture tells you all you need to know about the situation. It depicts a young black man swallowed up by his environment. He's just a small disposable piece of this ghetto's neglected urban tapestry, and a distinct person white America only observes as part of a monolithic racial group. You're not going to find many horror flicks with more going on beneath the surface than Candyman. DaCosta tackles a lot of intriguing themes worthy of deconstruction. The problem is that this is a lean movie clocking in at 90 minutes, and the film has to juggle its bloody thrills with its pensive moments. The transition is at times jarring, but it mostly works. Candyman is a story about legacy and how life plays out in cycles, which is a meta-commentary for a reboot that literally recycles a 90s movie. Candyman is also about white people's problematic relationship with blackness. The film explores this dynamic from a plethora of perspectives, none of them flattering. Pay attention and you'll see numerous examples of white people fetishizing, criticizing, and even claiming ownership over black men and women. The story also dives into the privilege that comes with being white. After all, it takes plenty of hubris to invite a murderous urban legend into your life. The white characters lead cushy lives, so they rarely feel threatened. The thought of inviting danger thrills them. And it's a stark contrast that the people of color in this film know much better. Candyman has that third act problem so many movies fall victim to. So when the story finally devolves into all-out carnage, the rock-solid film buckles under stress, ultimately holding the movie back from greatness. Candyman walks right up to that line before nosediving into schlock, and I say that as someone who loves schlocky horror. Nitpicks aside, Candyman offers much to appreciate. There's the ridiculously talented cast turning in top-notch performances. I could do a whole video on the macabre flashbacks told with shadow puppets. Best of all, I love how this movie features a cast of young and sexy black professionals living the type of aspirational lifestyles Instagram users dream of. Candyman is a cerebral and gripping horror mystery for most of its runtime, but its primal B-movie DNA overtakes it by the end. Eventually, this movie has to become the thing it's expected to be. Violent, bloody, nightmare film.